Welcome back. Okay, so let's talk variables. So, at its core, a variable in programming is a fundamental concept akin to a label or a name attached to some value or information. So, imagine you have a series of lockers, and each locker can hold one piece of information. When you want to store a piece of information, you choose a locker, put the information inside, and put a label on the locker so that you can easily remember and access that piece of information later. So in programming, these quote unquote lockers are memory locations, and the labels you put on them are what we call variables. So as we see, number is our label that we are assigning to the value 5. And so I am typing out number, and we are defining our variable, and you see we can also change the value as well. So originally I set number equal to 5, and now I'm setting number equal to 10, and we see that update. So variables can be updated, as you can see here. And now I'm going to give an example. So that was with numbers, integers. This is an example with strings, and so we're giving a variable first underscore name, and we are setting that equal to quote unquote Mary. This is a string, we could tell by the quotation. And so now we have a third variable, full underscore name, and this variable is going to hold our first variable, first underscore name, and our second variable, last underscore name. And what we are doing is we are actually concatenating. We are combining the first variable and the second variable. And you see we are putting here the quotations, and this is to represent the space. So when we print out full underscore name, what do you think the result will be? It is going to be our name, the first name, and the last name. Is basically what we have assigned as first name and last name. And then the space comes from the quotation, space, quotation. So that is a concatenation there, string concatenation. And here we are assigning the value 25 to the variable age. And when we print that, we see the value 25. And now I'm just giving an example here. We have a variable greeting, and we're setting that to hello world. And now we are printing that greeting there. And so also showing you, this is another example. We're saying pi underscore value, where have the value 3.14, and we are assigning that to our variable 3.14. I'm sorry, we're assigning that to our variable pi underscore value. So this is just showing you that essentially a variable is a container, right? So you have to declare your variable, and you're saying this is what this container holds, right? So x is equal to 10, y is equal to 5. We can update those values at any time, but as of right now, we are declaring x equals 10, y equals 5. So now we are saying, okay, sum of x and y equals x plus 7. And actually this was supposed to say x plus y, but as you can see, x plus 7, right? So x is 10, and then 7 is, so we're adding 10 plus 7, so that is why the output is 17 here. And like I was saying originally, I meant to put y here, but it was also a good learning experience, right? Because you were able to see x plus 7, or assigning a variable plus a integer. But when we say x plus y, we get 15. But when we update x to 2 and y to 0, now this sum will be 2. So like I said, it's not fixed, right? We can update those values that are assigned. And now there are also rules for variable names, and I would like to go over this as well. When I first started coding, I was just thinking, oh, you could name it anything. But no, there are specific rules when it comes down to naming your variables, and it's good practice to follow this, and it's good measure. So the first rule is that your variable must start with a letter. So I'm just giving an example. lowercase a to z, uppercase a to z, and then I'm saying, or it could be, it could start with an underscore, but I'll show you why. I'll explain later why that's not really the best option, but I'm just showing you that it can start with an underscore. And this second rule is just saying after the first character, the variable can start with an underscore, or it can start with numbers, but it's saying after the first character. The third rule is that we cannot start a variable with special symbols such as, the @ symbol, the pound, the percentage symbol. Any one of these symbols, you will actually get an error. It is not permitted. You cannot start a variable with these special symbols. And then it's also letting you know that names are case sensitive. So if you have a name or a variable that is all uppercase and you try to call that with the same spelling, but now it's lowercase, you cannot call that variable. It's going to give you an error, or it may be set for something else. And I'll give an example of that. Also, no spaces. And then there are also reserved words such as if, else, for, while. So a lot of these are for loops. I'll explain that in another tutorial, but these are called reserved words and they cannot be used to name our variables. And I'm giving an example here. Okay, we tried to start this variable with percentage name. We got an error. It says use a usage error. So that is saying we cannot do that. We cannot start a variable, or we cannot name a variable with a symbol. So now we're trying with a space. And this is actually saying invalid syntax. So it'll let you know that, hey, this is not permittable. We cannot do this. Same with this reserved word. We cannot do this. It says invalid syntax. And now this is showing how variables are case sensitive. So here we've got uppercase name, and we're assigning that to the word Mary. And now when we try to pull uppercase, of course, we see Mary. But when we type lowercase, it is not going to work. So it is case sensitive. This is just goes to show you that your variables, it has to be exact. When you're calling your variable, when you're storing your variable, when you declare your variable and then you call it, it has to be the exact name that you declared it as, basically. Okay, and this is just saying that variables that do begin with an underscore are considered private by convention. So it's not typical that you will start a variable with an underscore. So they're more so meant to be within the context of like within a module or a class. So this is not common practice to start your variable name with an underscore. If you've learned anything new and if I provided value, please do not hesitate to subscribe, comment, and like. This last tip is saying that variable names should be meaningful. So in other words, they should be very descriptive. They should be descriptive enough so that you can understand what your variable means. So that way you're not confused. So it's just giving an example. So this way you know the purpose of your variable. You don't just want to name, like if you have a username, you don't just want to name that variable A, right? So you want to name it something that is useful, something that has purpose, so that you can fully understand what that variable, what that function of that variable, what the purpose of that variable is. And it falls under the concept of semantics, basically. So I hope you all really enjoyed this video, and I look forward to creating more videos. See you in the next one. Bye.